Why does the church say that you have to get married in a church building? Let's pour some coffee on that. Hey guys, Father Brad here, and you're watching Coffee Talk, where we drink coffee and talk about Jesus. Today, specifically about Christ's call for us through the church to be married in a church. Now, number one, right now I'm talking to Catholics because really Catholics are the only ones bound by Catholic canon law. So if you are another denomination of Christian, you can get married wherever you want. I know Catholics are out there like, oh man. Two, you might not even have to. And I know, bishops probably don't want me saying this, but any bishop can give dispensation for things like that. Right? Places of sacraments, different requirements, time restrictions, right? A 6-month time period. These are the norms, and they're good, and they're holy, and they're awesome. But any bishop, for various reasons, can dispense of those things. So even the place of getting married. I say this not because I think it should be a widely practiced thing to be married outside of a church building, but that there might be legitimate reasons for one person to be married, or two people, because you have to have another person, for two people to be married outside of a church building, right? I had a friend of mine, I'm talking about you, a friend of mine who had vertigo symptoms, some kind of fancy thing that happened within him that if he was in front of people in a building or in a room and everyone was looking at him, like at presentations and in school and stuff like that, he would get vertigo symptoms and pass out. So we asked the bishop, we said, hey, he's got this thing. Can he get married outside of the church building? And he said, sure. Why then do you need dispensation? Like, why is the norm required to be in a church building? It's actually the same reason that all the other sacraments, or most of the other sacraments, their normative place of happening is in a church. Right? Have you ever heard of someone saying, hey, I want my child's first communion to be outside? No, that's never, or oh, we have first reconciliation happening, and can we please do it outside? Not really. Why? Because I think in general, people understand that those sacraments are connected to the altar and connected to Christ, right? Connected to God's house. If we see marriage as not just an event, right? Not just another step in someone's life, but an actual sacrament in which we get grace and a connection to the body of Christ, both in the Eucharist and in the community. See, marriages are not just for you. They're not just for two people. You get married for your sanctity, but you also get married for the good of the world and particularly the good of the church. So a wedding is a celebration of the community. I remember the movie Braveheart. There was this one scene from a wedding in which everyone was there. The entire town was so excited. And obviously the British crashed it and messed it up or whatever. But I remember seeing how important that wedding was to the community. And whether your wedding is super small and intimate or really big and there's a lot of people invited, it's still important to the wider community and to the body of Christ, to the church. So it's a public, important event. There's also a fantastically beautiful connection between marriage, right, of two people, and marriage, the marriage of Christ to his church, which is ultimately expressed in the Eucharist. And so it makes sense that you would be married, you would say your vows, you would lay down your life for each other and vow, I give myself completely to you, and you receive that vow, and that person gives themselves completely to the other person, and the two become one flesh. Wouldn't it make sense for that to happen in front of the altar of sacrifice in which Christ, every time Mass is said, through the priest's words, what does the priest say? This is my body. And the bridegroom, Jesus himself, lays down his life for the bride, the church. And the two become one flesh. Woo! That is amazing. Okay, so you see this, right? The two become one flesh points to Jesus in the Eucharist. So it makes sense that that marriage would happen in front of that altar. Because at a wedding mass, Jesus marries the bride, but you marry the bride. Unless you're the bride, then you get married. I've heard some people say that, Father Brad, I get that. That's cool, the altar, the sacrifice, the body, the one flesh union. But I personally experience God in nature. And I want to get married in this place where I feel God's presence. I too like going into the wilderness. I too like experiencing God's creation, and it does make me feel close to God. But the point, right, of marriage, the point of the sacraments is not to feel God's presence, but to be in God's presence. And when you are in the church, when you're in front of the tabernacle, no matter what we feel or what we believe or what we think, God is there. And so the church is being a good mother. The church is saying, I want you to do these vows in God's presence before Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. And while the world is fantastically beautiful, we were not made for the world. That's actually why we have churches to begin with, is because the Mass is supposed to not bring us to the world, but bring us out of the world. It's supposed to point us to heaven, which is the same thing your marriage is going to do. When you say your vows, what do you say? All the days of my life. Another way of saying that is till death do us part. You weren't made for here, and you weren't even made for the other person that you are marrying. You love them. It's great. I get it. But they are made to get you to heaven. That's your end. That's your goal. Right? Jesus in the tabernacle is your goal, not even each other. And when you know that, then your marriage will actually be even better. Plus, it never rains in a church. I mean, it's practical. It's practical, but I just want to say, and there's air conditioning. Ooh, you in Louisiana, get your afternoon showers at your wedding. I heard it's good luck when it rains on your wedding day, but only if you're inside. I'll end by saying this. You belong in the church, and we want you there. Even if you've been gone for a while, you haven't stepped foot in the church doors. If you're Catholic, even if you're not Catholic, we want you in the church. We want you receiving the sacraments. So reach out, call us, call your local pastor, call your local church, and we'll work things out. You can become Catholic if you want. But regardless of who you are, if you're watching this, especially if you're engaged, we want you to be married in the church. You are welcome. That is your heritage. That's where you belong. I mean, even if you don't understand it fully right now, it's okay. You don't have to understand everything fully. None of the apostles understood everything fully. Jesus had to continually explain things to them, unveil the truth. And that's true of us right now. So we want you there. Just reach out and we will make your wedding so stinking awesome. We're going to party it up at the wedding and then at the reception. Let's do this. Woo!